It's Friday, the 4th of November, 2022. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, 5 stories in 5 minutes. Let's jump into it. Story number 1, BHP, Rio Tinto and Fortescue Metals, along with companies controlled by Australia's richest person, Gina Rinehart, paid more than $28 billion in tax last year.
Yeah, that's about 40% of the entire corporate tax take and shows how important iron ore is to Australia's well-being. The money, of course, goes into the federal coffers. It's used to fund everything from health and education through to defence and cybersecurity. Now, the big banks, supermarkets and companies profiting from the COVID pandemic were among the biggest taxpayers, according to the tax office. In total, corporate tax raked in almost $100 billion. BHP was the single largest taxpayer, $7.3 billion, while Rio and Fortescue both paid in around $6 billion. Commonwealth Bank, Westpac, ANZ and National Australia Bank, they're all in the top 10. Combined, they paid about $8 billion. All sorts of discussion about big multinationals not paying enough tax in Australia. Well, some of them definitely are paying tax. Apple's Australian business had taxable income of $584 million and paid $173 million. Google, $300 million in taxable income, $78 million in tax. Still, there are others, both local and offshore, that are paying none. BP Regional Australia had $17 billion in revenue but paid zero tax. AGL had $10 billion in revenue and paid no tax. All legal, but the point is maybe there's a way of reclaiming some money from some of these companies.
Yeah, some big numbers there. On to story number 2 now, Sean. And the Air Force is set to double the size of its Hercules cargo aircraft fleet by buying 24 new planes after US officials approved a proposed deal worth up to $10 billion.
It comes as the Albanese government puts other major defence acquisitions on hold ahead of a strategic review. Now, Australia has operated the Hercules aircraft for decades. They've played a major role in moving troops and equipment in and out of war zones, countless missions flying humanitarian supplies to countries hit by disasters. According to the Financial Review, the RAF flies 12 Hercules at the moment, with the oldest more than 20 years old. The mooted deal would involve the RAF retiring all of those planes and boosting the size of the fleet, using these new aircraft made by the US defence giant Lockheed Martin.
Okay, on to story number 3. Food inflation, Sean, is absolutely rife, with Woolworths yesterday revealing that prices at the supermarket were up 7.3% on a year ago, led by big jumps in fruit and vegetables. So basically, if the cost of your shopping trolley is feeling like it's getting out of hand, you're not imagining it.
Mind you, I've got to say, $1.70 for an iceberg lettuce yesterday when I went to Woolies. Not that long ago, it was $8. Anyway, poor weather conditions sent perishable food prices higher, but the inflation goes well beyond that. Red meat, dairy products, they're all being hit as well. The Woolies boss, Brad Banducci, said things could actually get worse with the growing season for some fruits like cherries, delayed by the wet spring and the current cold snap along the east coast. Woolies said the impact of the higher prices was customers shifting towards lower cost products such as frozen and canned goods. Overall, Woolies said sales for the September quarter were down about 2%.
Sean, it seems as good a time as any to mention our other podcast, which is called How Do They Afford That?, featuring Canna Campbell, the founder of Sugar Mama TV, because we do an entire episode on what to do when your grocery bill is blowing out. So it is a must listen. You can find How Do They Afford That wherever you listen to podcasts. On to story number 4, Sean. Domino's share price tumbled 12% yesterday after warning that earnings will be materially lower in the current half year.
The country's biggest pizza chain is facing big inflationary problems, from cheese costs to energy prices and labour costs. The weaker Australian dollar isn't helping either. The group keeps expanding, pushing into Asia in August with the acquisition of 287 stores in Malaysia, Singapore and Cambodia. It actually wants to have 3,000 stores in the Asia region in about 10 years' time. Quite amazing. Domino's share price fell hard yesterday. It's really struggled recently. It's down about 30% over the past 4 years.
All right, one more to finish off on, Sean. Story number 5, Airbnb has posted its most profitable quarter ever, but that couldn't prevent a big sell-off in the stock on Wall Street.
That's right. The accommodation portal said net income jumped nearly 50%, which was much more than what people thought, but the outlook isn't as promising. And of course, share prices are based on future earnings, not past earnings. The CEO of the group, Brian Chesky, said there'd been a recovery in urban and cross-border travel. Going forward, he's confident that any downturn in coming quarters, particularly in the US, won't hurt Airbnb too much. Why is that? Because when times are tough, people start renting out their house to make some extra income. We'll see whether that happens.
All right, there we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Friday, the 4th of November, 2022. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough for you, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.